The air is still. Gray clouds press low against a quiet sky. The castle looms, not majestic, but heavy, silent, cold. You don't enter it as a guest. You belong to it. And in this moment, you are not a historian, not a tourist. You are someone who lives here, someone who survives here. It's winter, in the year 1325. The stone walls hold more cold than warmth, and the sun barely visits these days. The snow hasn't come yet, but the ground is hard as bone, and your breath leaves in pale ghosts. Before we begin, before we step inside, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel, but only if you truly feel at home here. These stories are made for quiet minds and gentle hearts, and if you're watching this in the stillness of night, feel free to leave a comment and tell me, where in the world are you? And what time is it for you now? Because this story doesn't belong to the past. It belongs to you. Here. Now, you shift your weight as the wind picks up. It finds the cracks in your wool cloak, slides along your spine, and nips at the corners of your mouth. Your hands are dry, red. You haven't felt your fingertips since yesterday. The drawbridge groans. The guards don't look up. No one speaks unless they have to. Words cost warmth, and warmth is the only currency that matters. Inside the stone corridor, the light fades. It's not dark, just dim in a way that makes you forget what daylight felt like. Candles flicker in iron sconces, but their flames don't touch the cold. You don't know why this winter feels longer than the last. Maybe it's because the roof above your quarters leaks when the frost thaws. Maybe it's because your bones ache in ways that used to belong to older people. Or maybe it's because you remember a summer that was kinder. And memories, in a place like this, can hurt more than hunger. You walk slowly, careful not to slip. The stones beneath your feet are slick with old moisture, never truly dry. You pass a tapestry, its colors faded, its warmth long gone. There's a shape ahead, a bucket with water left out overnight. You look into it. A skin of ice has formed, thin as glass. You touch it with your finger. It doesn't crack. It just numbs. A rat scurries across the edge of the corridor. It pauses for only a moment before vanishing behind a wooden crate. Even they know how to disappear here. You hear someone cough. It echoes, a reminder that you are not alone, but not truly with anyone either. There are bodies near you. Souls, maybe. But the silence is thick. People stay quiet to stay warm. A memory floats up. Your first night here. The fire had gone out before dawn. You didn't know to sleep curled. Didn't know to line your boots with straw. You woke with your toes blue and your breath frozen against the wall. Tonight, the story begins. But not with battles or kings. It begins with you. And the wind. And the sound of your breath as you close the wooden door behind you, sealing yourself in with the cold. The door shuts behind you, not with a thud, but with a reluctant creak. You don't lock it. There's no lock. Just a wooden bar you slip into place, more for ritual than security. You turn slowly, in the dark. There's no candle. You know the shape of this space by heart. A narrow cot of straw in the corner. A shelf with a wooden bowl, cracked near the rim. A woolen wrap, coiled like a sleeping cat. You sit, not from exhaustion, but to shake off the cold that clung to you like a second skin. Your breath clouds in the air for a moment before fading like a thought you can't quite hold on to. You live on the servant floor. Not the kitchens, not the stables, but near the walls where the wind never truly leaves. This is where people like you are put. Those who cook, carry, wash, and are forgotten. There's no window, just a slit in the wall, a breath of light at noon, a breath of ice at night. In the summer, flies gather there. In the winter, frost. And sometimes, a sparrow. You don't chase it away. Sometimes, you whisper to it. Your name? No one says it out loud here. Not unless they need something. You've learned to respond to silence, to footsteps, to the raising of a chin in your direction. Once, someone called you by your name. You didn't recognize it right away. You weren't born in the castle. You came when you were old enough to lift buckets, bend your knees without complaint. That was years ago. You've outlasted the others who arrived with you. Some left, some didn't. You keep your stories in your mind, like pebbles in a pouch. You don't think about them often. It hurts less that way. You eat less now, speak less, but see more. You see the tiny cracks where the mortar is giving way. You see where the firewood is hidden. Not the official pile, but the secret stash behind the barrels. You know which floorboards creak before someone enters your corridor. That's power, of a sort. You look down at your hands, rough, calloused. There's a scar near your thumb where you burned it last winter. The skin never healed smooth. Underneath your nails, there's always something dark. Ashes, maybe. Or just time. You press your palm flat against the stone wall. Cold radiates through your bones. You count to 10. It doesn't grow warmer. Sometimes you do this before sleeping, just to remind yourself what you're made of. Above you, footsteps echo. You can tell by the pace that it's the steward, not the Lord. He walks faster, angrier. You brace your shoulders out of habit. You remember the first time you saw the great hall. You were afraid to walk on the rugs, afraid to breathe near the tapestries. Now you know which ones are moth-eaten, which ones hide cracks in the walls, which corners the mice favor. There is a small pouch under your cot. Inside it, 3 buttons, a bit of twine, and a carving of a bird. Half finished, made with stolen time and a dull blade. You started it last winter. Maybe you'll finish it this one. Maybe not. The wood is soft and smells faintly of pine. The air is so still that you can hear the snow melt on the roof, even though it hasn't snowed in days. The sound is only in your mind, you think. But it comforts you. Like lullabies, you no longer remember the words to. A bell rings far above. Time for you to rise again. But you remain sitting, just for a moment longer. You trace circles in the dust with your finger. Tiny rituals of nothing that feel like something. No one is calling you yet. And in that space, in that pause, you almost feel like you belong to yourself. But then the footsteps come. Heavy, impatient. You stand. You always do. And the cold follows you out the door. The light that filters through the slit in the wall is not light at all. More of a suggestion, a faint gray smudge that shifts across the stone like a forgotten thought. You move toward it, not for warmth, but to gauge the hour. Your breath clouds in front of you, again. The chill hasn't left, only moved from your skin to your bones. The straw on your cot rustles as you shift your weight, brushing dust from your threadbare cloak. The coarse wool scratches your neck, but it's better than the air. The room is quiet, but not silent. The stones creak with cold. The wood groans as it settles. Outside, a crow caws, just once, before the wind swallows the sound. You sit on the edge of the cot, elbows on your knees, staring at the uneven stones beneath your feet. You've counted them before. Today, they seem different. Smaller. There's a bowl beside your bed. It holds a crust of bread from the night before. You break it, slowly, trying not to scatter crumbs. Crumbs attract rats. You chew with effort. The bread is hard enough to cut the inside of your mouth. You don't mind. Pain means you're awake. Your fingers trace the ridges of the stone wall behind you. You know every crack, every chip. One stone near the floor is loose. Behind it, you've hidden a scrap of parchment. It's blank. You don't know how to write, but sometimes you take it out and hold it, as if the act alone might inscribe a thought worth keeping. A whisper travels through the corridor. Not words, just a shift in air, a footstep 2 halls over. Your senses have grown sharp in this place. Sound carries in strange ways. You know who's coming by, how the floor groans beneath them. This time, it's no one for you. You turn to the shelf. On it rests your bowl, a spoon carved from bone, and a piece of cloth once white. Now, it's a dull gray. A scrap you sometimes use as a pillow. Sometimes to cover your face when the dreams come too loud. You stretch your legs and listen to the pop of your knees. You are not old, but the cold adds years to your joints, especially in the morning. You stand and walk slowly to the door. Your bare feet press against the stone. Familiar, but still startling. The door does not groan as you open it. You've learned how to lift the latch gently, how to ease the hinges with fat scraped from the cooking pots. Tricks passed between servants like secret prayers. You step into the hallway again. It is both colder and warmer here. Colder because the wind sometimes slithers through unseen cracks. Warmer because you are not alone. You can feel other breaths, other footfalls, other survivors. There is a broom leaning against the wall. You take it without thinking. It's your job today. Or maybe it was yesterday. Time is a loop in places like this. Down the corridor, you pass a torch still burning. It smells of pitch and old rags. It flickers when you move. Your shadow grows tall, then shrinks again with each step. On a shelf near the stairs, there's a bowl of salt left uncovered. A superstition, maybe. Or just forgotten. You pause. The grains sparkle faintly in the torchlight. You want to dip your finger in, taste it. You don't. Someone once told you salt keeps the spirits away. Someone else said it invites them. No one agrees on anything here. Except the cold. You brush the stairs. Each step is stone, worn smooth in the middle, edges sharp like secrets. You sweep slowly, not out of laziness but necessity. Fast movements stir up dust, and dust is harder to breathe than cold. There's no window at the bottom landing, just a doorway into another corridor, darker than the last. A draft pulls at your cloak. The broom handle is cold in your hands. You pause, just for a second. Just long enough to press your palm against the wall again, as if to remind yourself, yes, you're here. You haven't drifted away. Then you keep moving. Because that's what life in a castle means in winter. You don't thrive. You endure. You open your eyes, and the ceiling above you stares back with cold indifference. Gray stone, cracked slightly in the corner. You think it's gotten darker. Or maybe your vision is slow to wake. Your breath leaves in clouds again, soft white puffs that disappear too quickly. The cold greets you before thought arrives. It lives here, in the floor, in the blanket, in the air between your fingers. You pull the rough wool tighter around your shoulders, but it doesn't matter. The cold doesn't ask for permission. You sit up slowly. Every joint protests. Your knees ache. Your back is stiff from sleeping on straw that has long since lost its spring. You move carefully, because moving too fast invites dizziness. Hunger adds its weight to your bones. The room around you has not changed. A cracked jug in the corner, a broom missing half its bristles, a wooden bucket that smells faintly of old water. Your boots rest by the door. One has a hole at the toe. You push your feet in anyway. The stone beneath your soles is cruel. It bites through thin socks, sends a jolt up your spine. But you do not wince. You've grown used to it. Or you've forgotten what warm feels like. Outside your room, the hallway waits in silence. But not yet. First, your ritual. You stand and stretch your arms toward the ceiling. The cloak falls slightly off one shoulder. You let it. Then you walk to the bowl near the door and splash your face with water. It is colder than you expect. Sharp, like ice in motion. You gasp quietly. It helps. The shock drags you further into wakefulness. A moment later, your cheeks sting, and that means the blood is moving again. You wipe your face on a cloth hanging from a nail. It is stiff from yesterday's use. Still damp. Still cold. Everything is cold. Your hands tremble as you braid your hair or tie it back with a strip of cloth. You do it slowly, more from habit than necessity. No one here cares how you look. But the routine matters. In a place where time folds in on itself, routine anchors you. You check the door. The latch is firm. You oil it when you can, when the cook looks away. A smooth latch means fewer sounds. Fewer sounds mean fewer eyes watching. Outside, the hallway breathes. It waits, just beyond the wooden planks. You place your hand on the door. Not to open it, not yet. Just to feel the grain of the wood. It reminds you that you are still inside, that there is still time. You lean your head against the frame. Listen. Nothing. Or maybe everything. The castle never truly sleeps. Stones shift, rats scurry, fires cough. But in this moment, before the day begins, it is as close to silence as you'll find. You take a breath. Hold it. Let it out slowly. You remember your dream. Something about light. It was warm. It was bread. And you were not alone. The memory clings and then dissolves. You move your arms again. Shake them out. Rub your hands together until they feel less like stone. You adjust your cloak. Patchwork and threadbare. But it's yours. You press your fingers along the hem, looking for the tear you meant to fix but didn't. There it is. Still frayed. Still waiting. The air shifts. Somewhere above, a door slams. Distant. Someone else is awake. A new fire is being born. You hear it crack once, like a twig underfoot. You whisper nothing. Words would break the quiet. And then, with practiced ease, you unlatch the door, step out, and meet the morning. But the cold met you first. Your fingers are stiff when you reach for the bucket. The water inside it hasn't moved all night. It's grown still, thick, cold enough that it bites your skin when you dip your hand. You flinch, but not for long. You've done this before. Every morning. You know what to expect. That doesn't make it easier. You use both hands to lift the small jug beside the bucket. It's half full, heavy with the same biting chill. You pour a small stream into the tin basin resting on the stool, watching it steam, not from heat, but from the contrast between air and surface. You dip the rag. It's rough, made from an old shirt, and smells faintly of ash and oil. You squeeze it out, and then rub it over your face. Your skin reacts instantly, tightening, burning. It hurts a little, but it's how you know you're awake. There is no soap today. There was none yesterday. Maybe tomorrow someone will trade for more lye. Maybe not. You don't dwell on it. Clean is relative in a place like this. You take another rag, drier, but still cool, and pat your cheeks, then your neck, arms, and chest. You don't undress, not in this weather. Just enough to feel something that resembles care. Beside you, the cloak you wore to bed hangs off a peg. You shake it out and slide it over your shoulders again. It's thin, threadbare in spots, but it still holds the memory of your body's heat from the night before. Dressing is a process, not fast, not simple. You reach for your outer tunic. The sleeves are stiff, frozen slightly at the ends from yesterday's sweat. It takes effort to pull them over your undershirt. You shift your weight from one foot to another, muttering something you don't remember saying. You slide your feet into the same worn boots. One has a patch made from the inside of another boot. The laces are old, fraying at the tips. You wrap a cloth around your ankle to keep the cold from sneaking in. In the corner, a small mirror hangs from a nail. It's cracked down the center, a jagged line through a reflection you barely recognize. You lean forward anyway. Look at your own eyes, not to admire, just to check, to remind yourself you're here. A knock echoes faintly through the stone. 3 slow taps. A signal. Breakfast is near. You nod once, even though no one sees. You grab a strip of cloth, tie your hair back again. Another knot. Another day. You glance around the room one last time. The bucket, the rags, the blanket still warm in the center. You reach for the tin cup and sip what's left of yesterday's ale. It tastes flat. It tastes like every morning. But it warms your throat. Just enough. You step toward the door again, cloak brushing your knees. Your fingers hesitate on the latch. You don't need to rush. But the hallway waits. It always waits. You take a breath and open the door to whatever cold waits next. Your breath curls before your face in a pale mist as you step into the corridor. Stone walls on both sides greet you with silence. Each step echoes more than it should. Your boots thudding softly on the uneven floor. You pass another door. No sound inside. Perhaps they are still wrapped in sleep. Or pretending. Like most mornings, no one speaks first. At the end of the hall, a torch sputters, half burned and nearly out. The smoke hugs the ceiling, and you duck slightly as you pass beneath. It smells like last night's fire, like wet wool, like fatigue. You adjust your cloak tighter around your chest, not for warmth, for comfort, as if it could shield you from the day ahead. You pause at the stairwell. Down below, the cold intensifies. It always does. But you descend anyway. One hand on the stone wall, fingers grazing frost. This is the beginning. Again. Another day, barely started. And already, the winter is inside you. You sit on the low bench beside the long wooden table. The surface is rough with years of scrapes, knives, elbows, spilled broth now long dried and stained into the grain. Someone has already placed the bread out. It is not fresh. It never is. You pick up a piece, run your thumb along the crust. It's hard, dry, slightly dusty with flour that didn't bake in. You break it, and the sound is soft but sharp, like splitting a twig. You do not expect softness. Softness does not survive here. You chew slowly. Not because you want to savor it, there is nothing to savor, but because chewing helps warm your jaw. It gives your teeth something to do, something to push against. The inside is dense and bland, but it quiets the hunger a little. And that is all it needs to do. A pitcher sits near the edge of the table, wrapped in a cloth. Someone tried to keep it from freezing. You unwrap it, pour a small amount into the shared tin cup. The liquid is cloudy, pale amber. Weak ale, brewed with old grain and cold water. You sip it. It's flat, barely fermented, barely liquid. But it's not frozen. That's something. No one speaks. Not at this hour. The others sit in silence, cloaks draped over their shoulders, heads low, steam curling from their mouths like breath from sleeping animals. One woman rubs her hands together beneath the table. A man scratches his beard, then lets his arm fall still. They chew, sip, stare. You fit in perfectly. A small child stands nearby, holding a crust too large for her hand. She doesn't bite it yet, just holds it, eyes wide, shifting between the benches as if looking for someone. She finds no one. Or maybe she does, and just chooses not to approach. She leans against the wall and begins to nibble. Somewhere nearby, a log falls in the hearth. Not the hearth in this room. That one has no fire. But farther down, in a chamber meant for someone with status, warmth still exists. You feel it only in sound, a muffled thump, then silence again. You reach for another piece of bread. There are only a few left. No one contests you. Everyone knows what portion is fair. You take a smaller piece, just enough to balance the taste of the ale, if you can call it taste. You chew again, and your jaw aches slightly. You pause, roll your shoulders, feel the joints click. Your belly doesn't feel full. It rarely does. But the edge of hunger dulls for a moment. Enough to function. Enough to move. A woman across from you whispers something. A prayer, maybe. Or a thought slipped out too loud. She doesn't look up. Neither do you. The walls sweat in the cold, tiny beads of condensation forming in the cracks between stone. You stare at them. Watch one grow large enough to fall. It does, with a sound so faint you can't be sure you heard it. But your eyes saw. That's enough. In the corner, someone clears their throat. The scrape of a bench follows. One person stands, then another. No signal, just a shared knowing. Morning is not for lingering. You drink the last sip of ale, wipe your mouth with your sleeve. It leaves a smear of stale grain on the fabric, but you don't look down. You're already reaching for your gloves. They are still damp from yesterday. You press them between your palms, trying to warm the inside with your breath. One finger has a hole. You push through anyway. That finger will go numb first. It always does. You step back from the table. Another woman takes your spot. She doesn't meet your eyes. Neither of you expects it. You move toward the exit, where the door is thick but not sealed. Cold air seeps in beneath it, brushing your ankles. You press your body to the edge. Wait for someone to open it first. The wind outside is worse than in here. Better to follow than to lead. The latch creaks. Light pours in, gray, pale, soft, like washed linen. You step out, and the morning takes you. The wind finds your neck. You shrug deeper into your cloak. The bread in your stomach shifts as you move, heavy but hollow. You keep walking. You don't look back. There is no warmth behind you. Only stone. Only stillness. Only the faint echo of your breath, already lost in the cold. The stones beneath your boots are slick with frost. but you know the pattern well. Step wide at the curve near the storeroom. Avoid the patch where rain always pools and freezes by morning. Your feet remember what your mind no longer notices. The corridor widens as you move past the kitchen door. A single candle burns behind a grated window. You don't stop. You're not needed inside. Your work lies beyond. The woodpile, the scullery, the small storeroom where the ashes are kept. Outside, the wind slaps your cheeks before you can brace yourself. It cuts sideways through the courtyard like a knife dipped in ice. You flinch, tuck your chin to your chest, and push forward. The light is dim. Sun hasn't fully risen, but the sky has shifted from black to a dull gray blue, like bruised linen. You cross the yard. In the center, the well stands like a forgotten monument, rimmed with a ring of frozen moss. No one uses it until later, when the sun might crack the ice that clings to the rope and stones. You pass it without pause. The woodpile leans against the far wall. What remains is damp and crooked, covered with burlap that stiffened overnight. You lift a corner. The smell hits first. Mold, wet bark, the faint sweetness of decay. You sort through it quickly, picking thinner logs that might light easily, even if they hiss with moisture. Your fingers stiffen quickly. You clench them around the wood anyway. You carry 5 pieces in your arms, pressed against your chest. They scratch your tunic, catch on loose threads. You don't care. You need fire. And so does everyone else. The scullery door groans as you push it open with your back. The room is dark, lit only by one slit window near the ceiling. A pile of ash sits near the corner, raked, but still hot near the center. Someone tended the fire late. You kneel, set down the wood, and blow gently on the embers. They don't respond at first. You shift, find the warmest spot, and blow again. A red eye appears, faint, reluctant. You feed it a thin twig, then a sliver of bark. Slowly, it breathes back. The first crackle is small, hopeful. You crouch closer, shielding it with your hand. One more breath. One more offering. The fire catches. It's not bright, but it lives. You place 2 logs on either side and wait. The heat reaches your knees, then your chest. You stretch your hands toward it. The tips of your fingers ache as sensation returns. It feels like needles, but you welcome it. Outside, a gust of wind whistles through a cracked plank. You glance back, then forward again. There is nothing but wood, stone, and breath in this moment. You sit for another minute, not because you have time, but because the warmth holds you like something kind. You hear steps approaching, the uneven drag of someone older. You rise, dust off your hands. An older man enters, coughing into his sleeve. He nods toward the fire. You nod back. He says nothing. Neither do you. The fire speaks enough. You gather the remaining wood, stack it near the hearth, then step outside again. The wind hasn't changed. It still bites. But now you carry something inside you, a flicker of warmth, pressed between ribs. You pass the well again. This time, someone else stands near it. A girl, maybe 12, breaking ice at the rim with a small stone. You don't stop. She doesn't look up. The door to the hall waits open. You step back into the dim stone corridor. Your arms ache slightly from the cold and the load, but your pace is steady. You've brought fire. That counts for something, even if it won't last the day. The corridor bends toward the kitchens, and you follow it not because you've been told to, but because it's where the warmth lingers. Barely. A hush hangs over this wing of the castle, Not silence exactly, but a waiting. As if the stones themselves are holding breath. When you pass under the archway, the air shifts. Thicker, warmer. Not much, but enough to notice. A narrow trail of soot marks the wall to your right. A sign of recent fire. Of life. Inside the kitchens, bodies move like clockwork. Slow, efficient, resigned. A woman with her sleeves rolled high stirs a pot with a stick longer than your arm. The smell is sour. Fermented cabbage, root vegetables, something boiled until it gave up. She doesn't look up. None of them do. You find your place near the wall, where the baskets are stacked. You begin sorting. Carrots, potatoes, a turnip that feels soft and needs to be cut. You don't ask what for. You simply pass it along. The boy next to you, younger by half a decade, hums a tune under his breath. You don't recognize it. Maybe he made it up. Maybe it's all he remembers of his mother. You don't ask. No one asks. Someone laughs softly near the fire. It's not a joyful sound, just a brief one. A flicker. It vanishes as quickly as it came. You peel in silence. The knife is dull and your hands are cold, but you keep going. The rhythm is oddly soothing. Scrape, turn, scrape. Bits of skin curl under your fingernails. Your back aches, but you don't stop. A clatter breaks the quiet. A pot dropped, not broken. The boy startles. You don't. The woman stirring the pot mutters something about being careful, but her voice is too low to carry weight. You glance at the hearth. It's been going since dawn, maybe earlier. The fire is healthy now, its belly red and full. Someone throws in a handful of dried herbs. The scent lifts through the air like memory. For a moment, it smells like something you can't name. Something gentle. Maybe spring. You close your eyes. Just for a second. When you open them, the basket beside you is full. You rise, stretch your arms behind your back until the muscles crack. You move toward the prep table, where older hands receive your offering without a word. They begin slicing. You begin again. Steam rises from a second pot now. Thin, almost invisible. You feel it against your face when you pass too close. A droplet of condensation hits your lip. You wipe it away with the back of your hand. The bread arrives in a cloth sack. Hard, heavy. Yesterday's, maybe the day before. Someone begins breaking it apart with a small mallet. It crumbles more than it cuts. You take a chunk and dip it in the broth. It soaks quickly, falls apart before it reaches your mouth. You try again. This time, it holds. The first bite is warm. Not good. Just warm. You chew slowly. Your jaw clicks. You chew anyway. A bell rings faintly from the great hall. Time to serve. You wipe your hands on your apron, fold it once, and tuck it aside. A new rhythm begins. Plates are arranged, bowls are filled, each portion counted, careful. The servant's hands work with practiced ease. Yours among them. Ladle, wipe, pass, step back, repeat. The food smells stronger now, not because it's rich, but because hunger has made your senses sharp. You catch yourself breathing it in. You don't apologize. The first tray is lifted. A boy stumbles under its weight, steadies himself, then disappears through the swinging door. Another follows. Then another. You stand by the wall again, watching. The steam rises and curls, like spirits heading somewhere warmer. You wrap your cloak tighter, though the kitchen is the warmest place you've stood all day. When your name is called, you move quickly. You don't want the better dishes to be gone. You don't want to carry the tray with the cracked bowl. You reach for one that looks solid, balanced. You lift it with both hands. It's heavier than you thought. The door to the hall opens again, and the cold rushes in. You carry the tray carefully into the great hall. The doors creak open just wide enough for you to slip through. Inside, the air shifts again, cooler, thinner, but heavy with expectation. Eyes turn, not toward you, but toward the food. Always the food. The lords are not here yet, only stewards and their aides, arranging benches, setting goblets, whispering schedules. Their voices stay low, polite, clipped, like they're afraid to disturb the cold itself. You walk along the edge of the long table, stopping where instructed. A hand gestures. You set the tray down. It thuds dully against the wood, but no one reacts. Everyone is pretending to be too busy to notice everyone else. The person beside you says nothing. You recognize her. You peeled carrots beside her last week. She smelled like onions then. Today, she smells like smoke. Or maybe you do. It's hard to separate one scent from another in a place where fires are never quite out. She lifts the lid from a pot on your tray, nods once, covers it again, then moves on. You remain a moment longer, waiting. You don't know for what. Maybe for someone to speak. Maybe for someone to notice. No one does. The silence here is not empty. It's crowded. With rules. With glances. With all the things people don't say in places like this. You hear it in the way someone clears their throat too softly. In the way a man wipes the rim of his goblet with a cloth, though no one asked him to. In the way footsteps pause, just slightly, before they cross behind the head chair. Someone whispers a joke. You don't hear the words, only the rhythm. The pause after the punchline tells you it wasn't very funny. The hall is vast, but the warmth doesn't reach here. The hearth at the far end struggles, spitting more smoke than flame. You can smell the dampness in the logs, feel it in your sleeves, in your breath. You move away from the table, toward the wall, where the shadows collect. From here, you can see more. Not details, not faces, but movements, repetitions, a language of posture and position. Someone hands you a jug. You take it without asking. Begin filling cups, one by one. You nod at each person you serve. They rarely look up. When they do, it's brief. A flicker of acknowledgement, like candlelight in wind. You pour, step, pour, step. The same liquid, the same pace, the same hands, until the jug is light again. You return to the kitchen, set it down, and take another. The boy with the chipped tooth smiles at you. You don't smile back. But you think about it. Back in the hall, the First Lord has arrived. His boots echo louder than yours. His cloak sweeps the floor, clean in places where no one else's foot has touched. He says nothing, but his presence rearranges the silence. People straighten their backs. Some disappear through side doors. Others pretend to be still adjusting the place settings. You keep pouring. He doesn't look your way. You're not surprised. The woman with the smoke scent passes you again. This time her sleeve brushes yours. Not on purpose, but not entirely by accident either. You wonder if she feels it too. That odd charge between two people who aren't allowed to speak. Someone coughs near the doorway. Someone laughs too loud and too late. A wooden spoon falls to the floor. You kneel to pick it up. The stone is colder here, closer to the ground. You stand again. Nothing has changed. You finish your round. Return the jug. And this time, no one gives you another. You wait near the door, just for a minute, pretending to inspect the hinges. No one calls your name. You step outside again, back into the corridor. The kitchen light glows behind you. Ahead, the castle returns to its quiet hum. You walk, slowly, listening. Somewhere, someone is crying. Not loudly, just a thin sound, barely more than breath. It doesn't stop you. You keep walking. The corridor narrows as you walk, stones closing in like the ribs of something once alive. Your breath lingers longer now, curling against the cold, then vanishing like it was never there. You rub your hands together. The skin feels thin, stretched. It doesn't help. The kitchen door stands open. Someone has propped it with a log. Smoke leaks around the edges, not enough to choke, but enough to blur the ceiling beams. You step inside. It is warmer here. Not warm, just less biting. A dozen people move in and out of the half-light. No one speaks above a murmur. The room works like breath. In, out, in again. You find your place without being told. There's a pile of carrots on the table, misshapen, earth still clinging to the skin. Your fingers ache just looking at them. You pick up the knife and begin peeling. The rhythm is slow at first, then steady. Peel, scrape, flick. The sound of it is familiar. It centers you. A woman across from you nods. Her lips are chapped, one eye swollen nearly shut. She keeps peeling. You don't know her name. You never asked. In the hearth, a pot hangs over coals. It sweats, but doesn't boil. Inside, water, barley, a bone with no meat left. It's called stew, but no one believes it. Not really. You'll call it food when it's thicker. If it gets thicker, someone brings onions. You peel those too. Your eyes sting. You welcome it. It makes your nose run, your face feel alive. You haven't felt your toes since noon. There's bread on the shelf, flat, dry, already cracked. You'll dip it later. It will soften, but never enough. You know the feeling. In the back, someone sings under their breath. A song without a tune, just syllables that might have meant something once. You don't mind. The noise keeps the silence from filling too fast. The cook enters. She doesn't look up, just gestures toward the meat hooks. You go. There's a strip of pork, salted, too hard to tear. You cut it anyway. Thin slices, as if thinness makes it stretch farther. You drop them into the pot. They hiss on the surface, then sink. A few bubbles rise. Everyone pretends not to watch, but they do. Time bends in kitchens. It's always earlier or later than you think. You stir the pot with a ladle that's more patch than wood. The handle creaks when you grip it. You ladle out a test bowl, just a sip. It tastes like smoke and salt and bone. Not enough of any one thing to complain about. You nod. The cook nods back. Outside, the light fades. No one needs to say it. The sky is turning slate. You feel it in your shoulders, in your breath. You begin setting the bowls, one at a time, a circle of rough clay on the long table, each one chipped differently. No two lives break the same way. Someone hands you spoons, dented, bent at the neck, still usable, still here. You set one in each bowl. Then you fill them. The stew isn't thick, but it moves. It steams. It's warm. That's enough. Others begin to drift in, quietly, slowly. They sit where they always sit. There is no order, but there is memory. You place the last bowl, then sit beside the woman with the swollen eye. She doesn't smile, but she slides half her bread toward you. You break it in half again. Pass one piece back. That's how fairness works here. The cook sits last. She lifts her spoon, takes the first bite. Everyone else follows. No blessing, no speech, just heat and habit. You taste yours. You don't close your eyes, but you could. The flavor changes with each bite. First salt, then something bitter, then just warmth. The bread dissolves before your teeth find it. That's a mercy. No one talks. Not because they're afraid, but because it's quiet here. And quiet, tonight, is sacred. You finish. Set the spoon down. Wrap your hands around the empty bowl. It holds more warmth now than it did when full. The woman beside you exhales. Not a word. Just the sound of making room for sleep. You rest your elbows on the table. Watch the last of the steam rise. And for a moment, everything feels still. You linger at the table after the bowls are cleared. No one rushes. No one tells anyone to move. The air is warmer here than in the corridors, and everyone knows it won't last. When you finally rise, your knees pop softly, a sound swallowed by the crackle of the kitchen hearth. You stretch without thinking, arms overhead, breath shallow. A familiar ache runs down your spine. It's the cold, but it's also the weight of the day. You step back into the corridor. The difference is instant. The warmth disappears behind you like a door shutting. The cold wraps around your legs and climbs. You pull your cloak tighter. Up the stairs again, hand against stone. The wall is slick in places where frost collects after nightfall. You don't look up. There's nothing to see but shadows. Your room isn't far, but your steps slow anyway. You aren't afraid of what waits, only what doesn't. No fire, no thick blanket, no miracle. Just the same four walls and a little heat you hope still lingers in the straw. Inside, the air is still. Cold, yes, but unmoving, which is something. You shut the door behind you and lean against it for a breath. Then you begin layering. First, a thin undershirt. Linen. Holes under both arms. Then another. Wool this time. Rough. Itchy. But warmer. You cross your arms, pressing it tighter to your chest. Your hands fumble with the cloak. You fold it into a long strip and wrap it around your torso like a sash. Over that, your tunic. Over that, another. All of them dull shades of brown and gray. None of them thick enough. But the weight helps. At your feet lies a pile of rags. You pick through them slowly, like sifting memories. One goes around your neck, one around your head, two more down your boots, one for each ankle. The final piece is a length of burlap, frayed, full of holes, but long. You wrap it around your waist, then let it drape down over your legs like a skirt. It scratches when you move. You won't move much. You shuffle toward the straw bed. It isn't a bed, not really. Just a pile, flattened in the middle. The same place you've lain every night since the frost came. You pull it apart, shake the cold out with your hands. Useless, but necessary. Habit helps you believe you still have control. You sit down slowly, letting your weight sink into the straw, letting the chill of it climb up through your legs. You lie down. Pull the blanket, such as it is, over your shoulders. It smells like dust and wool and body. You turn your face into it. Breathe in. Hold. For a while, nothing moves. Then, the sound of a knock. Soft. Familiar. One long. Two short. You grunt in reply. The door creaks open. It's the same boy from the kitchen. He says nothing, just slips inside, closes the door behind him, and curls up at your feet. His breath comes quick. He shivers. You don't ask why he's here. You know. You lift the blanket and gesture him closer. He inches up, settles against your back. His body is small, but warm. You press your spine against his chest. Another knock. Another body. Then another. Eventually, there are four of you under the same blanket. Breathing. Not speaking. Creating heat where the fire cannot. A hand rests on your shoulder. A foot slides against yours. None of it is personal. None of it is strange. In winter, the body becomes a tool, a gift, a mercy. Someone mutters a prayer. Not aloud. Not quite. Just syllables, soft and old. You recognize none of them, but you feel them anyway. You close your eyes. The air smells like sweat and rags and breath. The cold is still there, but it doesn't bite as hard now. You exhale, slow and long, then again. Outside, the wind moves past the tower stones like water over bone. Inside, you are a knot of limbs and cloth and hope. And for now, that's enough. The shivering doesn't begin with cold. It begins with stillness, with silence too deep to be natural, with the weight of sleep that feels more like sinking. At first, you think you're just tired, maybe sore from the extra work, maybe hungry. But then your teeth begin to chatter, lightly, then harder, and your skin, already pale from winter, burns at the joints. Someone notices. They tell you to lie down, then disappear. The straw beneath you is thin and damp. There's a cloth, coarse, scratchy, pulled over your chest. It doesn't help. The cold no longer comes from outside. It's inside now, swimming beneath your ribs. The woman who watches over the sick comes in. She's not a doctor. There are no doctors. She's just the one with the herbs and the instinct. She touches your forehead, then your throat. Her fingers are rough and cool. "No fever yet," she murmurs, almost to herself. But it's building. They say the fever comes in waves, that it waits until you're weak, then sweeps over you like a tide. You wait, and the tide arrives. It hits that night. You wake drenched in sweat, your mouth dry, your lips cracked. Your chest rises and falls in short, uneven bursts. Each breath sounds too loud in your ears. You want to sit up, but your limbs won't listen. They are too heavy, too far away. Someone tries to feed you broth. Your head rolls to the side. The spoon clatters. The woman sighs. "Let him sleep," she says. "He'll either wake stronger or not." They place a cloth soaked in something sharp near your face. Vinegar and thyme. It makes your eyes water. You cough once. The pain in your throat slices down to your chest. Then back to black. You dream, but it isn't a dream. You are walking in snow barefoot. The sky above you is heavy. The castle in the distance is dark. You call out for someone. No one answers. You keep walking anyway. Because what else can you do? When you wake again, it's day. You think. Your body is shaking. Not the whole of it, just small parts, like your fingertips and knees. Your skin is both burning and cold. Your stomach is empty, but unwilling to take anything in. Someone places a hot stone near your feet. Another adjusts the blanket. Another changes the cloth on your head. It's the same woman. Or another. You can't tell any more. They whisper prayers sometimes. Latin words you half remember from chapel. They whisper them like spells. For 3 days, you do not stand. For 3 days, you do not speak. For 3 days, you float between waking and sleep, between aching and numbness, between silence and the slow beat of your own heart. The world outside continues. You hear boots in the hallway, buckets scraped across stone, the low hum of someone stirring the soup. No one stops to visit. No one has time. The castle moves on with or without you. But on the 4th day, you wake up, and the cold isn't inside you anymore. It's still in the walls, still in the air, but not in your bones. Your hands find the edge of the blanket. They lift. Your legs shift. Your breath comes easier. It's shallow, but it no longer rattles. You sit up. The woman comes in. She looks surprised, then tired. "You're lucky," she says. "Another night, and we'd have wrapped you." You nod. You don't speak. Your throat is still raw. but you meet her eyes. That's enough. That evening, you try a spoon of soup. It stays down. It tastes of onion and salt and life. You won't be strong tomorrow, or the day after, but you will move again, and you will cough less each night, and you will return to the work, because that is what people do here. They return, even after sickness, even after silence. You sit near the hearth, wrapped in 2 blankets. The fire pops softly, as if whispering back. Outside, snow falls. Inside, you begin again. You hear the guards before you see them. Boots strike the stones with hard rhythm. 3, then pause, then 3 again. The pattern is familiar. Punishment walks in patterns. Orders barked in the courtyard. A name shouted. A door opened too fast. Then silence, or screams. Sometimes both. You keep your eyes low. You've learned not to look. You've learned not to react. You grip your wooden bowl tighter and pretend you don't hear. Pretend you're invisible. You've become very good at that. The fire has gone out. Again. There's a rule about who must keep it lit, and no one wants to break it. But the logs are damp, the flint unreliable. You tried once, and the spark danced, but never caught. So you sit in the cold and pretend that shivering is normal. It is now. Someone speaks too loudly in the hallway, then cuts off mid-sentence. A pause. A hush. Then footsteps change direction. You count the steps, not because they matter, but because you need something to count, something that isn't fear. The bread was green today. You scrape the mold off, but the taste lingers. You chew slowly, not because you savor it, but because eating gives your mouth something to do, something other than whispering prayers. There are rumors again, plague in the south wing, or maybe rats. Or maybe it's just someone trying to explain the silence. A child was coughing last night. Now she's gone. Her blanket folded neatly. Her name not spoken. You don't ask. You keep close to the hearth, even though it's dark. The stones hold a little warmth, and the shadows here are less crowded. You avoid corners. Too many memories in corners. Whispers. Blood. Cold water dumped in the middle of the night. A man screamed last week. They say he saw something crawling through the walls. They say he hasn't spoken since. He still eats, still breathes. But his eyes are always open, even when he sleeps. You haven't seen the sky in 3 days. The windows are too high, and the snow clings to the glass. You measure time now by meals, or what passes for meals. Thin stew, weaker ale, the rhythm of survival. Someone dropped a bowl in the great hall. It shattered, and no one moved. Not from fear, but because they all understood. The bowl is gone. Like so many things, like so many people. You still have your scarf. It smells like soot and old onions, but it's yours. You fold it every night the same way. 1, 2, 3. Tuck the ends in. Smooth the edges. There's comfort in repetition. At night, you try not to sleep too deeply. The dreams are worse than the waking. You dream of being dragged, of your name being called, of your feet slipping on ice while hands grab you from both sides. Last winter, a woman was caught stealing wood. She said it was for her sick brother. She still has the scar across her cheek. The wood burned anyway. Someone coughs again. You pretend not to hear. The room pretends with you. There's a rule here. If no one reacts, maybe it didn't happen. Maybe they'll get better. Maybe they'll disappear quietly. You rub your hands together, not because they're cold, but because stillness makes you feel too visible. You kneel. You stand. You fold rags. You stir the pot, even when it's empty. Movement is protection. You hum sometimes, just softly. No melody, just enough to remind yourself you're still here, still a person, still breathing. Tonight, the wind howls through the cracks in the stone. The door shifts in its hinges. Something scrapes above. Rat, bird, ghost. You don't care. You pull the blanket tighter. Outside, someone laughs too loudly. Inside, you freeze. Then, silence again. You stare into the dark and count backward from 10. Not because it helps, but because it's something to do while you wait. You walk slowly, the chapel cold, even though it's deep within the castle walls. The air smells of old stone and melting wax. There are no crowds here, just silence, and the sound of your own breath, shaky, visible. You kneel not out of comfort, but out of routine. The stone beneath your knees is unforgiving, and yet familiar. You close your eyes. The priest's words are quiet today, more whisper than sermon. He doesn't raise his voice to fill the room. He knows no one wants to be startled. His prayers drift like fog, slow, shapeless, meant more for memory than meaning. Domine, miserere nobis. You don't know Latin, but you've memorized the cadence. The syllables feel like rhythm, not language. You mouth them, like humming to keep your heart company. In the corner, a candle flickers unevenly. It doesn't fight the darkness. It lives inside it. The flicker dances across the stained wall, and for a moment, you pretend it's sunlight. You miss sunlight. Around you, others kneel. No one looks at each other. Faith is not a shared thing here. It's private, inward. Each person holding on to their belief like a coal in a frozen hand. You know that some pray for food, some pray for warmth. You pray not to forget how to hope. The chapel has no stained glass. The windows are plain and frosted. Outside, the snow creeps higher against the walls. It muffles everything. Inside, the priest finishes with a soft amen. No one responds aloud. There's no echo, no chime. Just breathe, just stillness. You rise, legs stiff. Another day waits. The ritual didn't warm you, but it held you still. And sometimes, stillness is enough. You pass by a bowl of holy water. It's half frozen. You touch it anyway, just to feel something, just to remember. You think of the saints, chiseled into the cold stone walls. You wonder if they were ever cold. You wonder if they'd forgive your doubts. That night, lying under thin wool, you whisper the prayer again. Not because you believe it works, but because it's what you've always done. A rhythm, a habit, a human sound in the dark. It doesn't chase the cold away, but it keeps the silence company. You dream of a warm chapel, where the light isn't fire but daybreak, where your knees rest on wood, not stone, where songs echo. You don't wake up there. You wake up here, still in the cold, still in the dark. But for a moment, in sleep, the prayer became a place. And maybe that's enough. Maybe faith isn't about warmth or light, but having a shape to step into when your own body feels empty. So you rise again tomorrow, kneel again tomorrow, whisper again tomorrow, even if no one hears, even if you're not sure why, because that's what it means, in this place, in this time, to keep the silence company. The feast is not what stories promised you. There is no overflowing table, no endless roast, no music that makes the stone walls dance. It's a quiet gathering in the great hall, a moment when no one works. Not because of celebration, but because there's no wood left to cut and nothing to mend in the dark. The fire burns low. It's meant for mood, not warmth. You are called to serve. You walk behind the long wooden table, placing the trenchers, dry and cracked, in front of each guest. The trenchers aren't plates. They're old slabs of stale bread, meant to soak up what little grease remains from the meal. You carry a pot, mostly turnip, maybe a bit of onion, maybe not. You ladle carefully. The rich get deeper spoons. You do not. The hall smells of bodies and ash. Not unpleasant, just real. A thick, honest scent that belongs to unwashed wool and smoked meat and the years that have passed without scrubbing these stones. Your hands are raw from the cold, but they move with precision. You've done this every winter. Someone laughs. Not loud, not free, but a little laugh. A crooked-toothed man near the fire says something about the stew having a bone in it this year. No one corrects him. Jokes are currency. He just spent his. You pass by a young woman, another servant. She looks at you for a moment. Just a moment. And in that look, you both say everything. I'm tired. I'm cold. I miss color. I miss June. But you don't say it out loud. The fire doesn't like noise. Bread is passed down. The heel is yours. It's hard and cracked, but warm from the bottom of the pot. You eat quickly, mouth close to the table. Your teeth hurt from chewing, but it's the only hot thing you'll taste this week. A bard plays a lute in the corner. It's out of tune. He sings low and slow, a song about summer that no one really listens to. But the rhythm is familiar. Familiar is comfort. The children, those allowed to stay awake, lean against each other, eyes heavy. One drops a trencher on the floor and pretends it was a game. A noble laughs politely. The child does not smile. Candles flicker, low and yellow. Shadows rise behind them, tall and bent. You look at them and imagine they're old friends you haven't seen in years. You wave at one. It waves back. Or maybe it's the candle. You're not full, but you're not hollow either. That's the best you can hope for. You lick the inside of the trencher, taste salt and ash. You don't complain. You don't remember the last time anyone did. Afterward, you sweep the crumbs. You gather the bowls. You move like a ghost between the chairs. Someone coughs. Someone sighs. The hall empties. You stay behind for a second, just to feel the quiet after the quiet, just to breathe where others laughed. Tomorrow, the feast will be gone. The warmth will fade. The fire will be ash. But tonight, for a few slow hours, the castle remembered how to be human. You close your eyes, just for a moment. You've never been to the upper rooms? Not really. But you've carried firewood to their doors, enough times to know what they must feel like. Warmer, softer. There's no smell of mold, no smoke trapped in the ceiling. When the wind howls, they don't hear it. The Lord's chambers are far above the kitchen. There are carpets there, real ones, with patterns. A fire burns constantly in their hearth, even when no one's cold. That fire is not for warmth. It's for presence. Power must never look like it shivers. You once caught a glimpse through the open door. Fur rugs, candles with real beeswax, a dog lying near the fire, well-fed and still, the sound of a harp not being played, just sitting there as if waiting for someone who had time to be gentle. The air smelled of cloves, not stew, not feet, just cloves. They eat on silver. You eat on wood. Their trenchers don't crumble when they cut into meat, because they don't use bread for plates. They have dishes, glazed, imported, heavy. You were told not to speak unless spoken to. But once, one of the Lord's sons, barely older than you, asked your name. You gave it. He forgot it. But you didn't. Because someone with clean nails said your name. That memory kept you warm through one of the hardest nights. At night, their rooms are lit. Not just by candlelight, but oil lamps too. You can see the soft glow through the narrow windows, even as your own room sits in blackness. You wonder if they notice the dark at all. They wear layers not out of necessity, but out of display. Velvet, fur, stitched with gold thread. You wear the same tunic you slept in. Sometimes you think, just for a second, what it would be like to trade places. But you quickly stop. Not because you fear dreaming, but because in this place, dreaming has consequences. Someone once stole from the upper floors. Bread. Just bread. He was caught. He didn't scream when they took him. But you still hear the silence. The rich sleep alone, in beds large enough to roll twice over. They don't hear snoring. They don't wake to someone's knee pressing into their back. Their pillows are stuffed with feathers. Yours with straw, if you're lucky. And yet, you don't envy them the way others do. Because they're warm, yes. But warmth behind stone and silence can still feel like cold. You've seen their eyes. Distant. Unused to looking down. So you walk past their doors, balancing the wood. You knock. You leave it. You turn away before anyone answers. Because their fire isn't yours. And you know, it never will be. You return to your floor, your level, your corner of the world. The warmth of the upper chambers disappears by the first turn in the stairwell. Stone breathes here. Cold seeps from the floor and climbs into your bones like ivy on old brick. It is a living thing, this chill, a slow, patient force that never tires. You pass by a wall with a crack that whistles when the wind hits it just right. It's been whistling for days now. Some say it sounds like a bird. Others say it's a curse. You stopped listening to either. You only know it gets louder at night. Your hands are numb from carrying logs. Splinters decorate your palms like tiny reminders. You don't pull them out. Not unless they fester. There is no bandage for small things here. A child is crying. Somewhere near the corner where the kitchens meet the servants' rooms. The sound is muffled by the stones, but it's real. You don't check. Not because you don't care, but because everyone cries here. It's just a matter of time. You enter your room. It smells like wet wool and old breath. Your blanket is still damp from last night. You pick it up, shake it once, and set it near the coals. Not close enough to catch fire. Just close enough to imagine it might dry before midnight. A rat scurries by your foot. You don't flinch. It's the same one from last week. You've named it, not aloud, but in your head. It's part of the routine now. The rat has a better idea of your schedule than most humans. Dinner was hours ago, but your stomach didn't notice. It's past hunger. It just waits now. Waits for something to chew, for something warm, for something soft. None of those things are coming. You lie down without undressing. Your clothes are the only insulation. The blanket covers your feet, but leaves your shoulders cold. You turn toward the wall. It's not warmer there, but it's different. Different sometimes helps. Outside, the wind returns. It sounds like breathing, like a giant asleep just above the clouds. You try to sync your own breath with it. Pretend it's someone watching over you. Pretend the stone has a heartbeat. Someone coughs in the distance. You recognize it. Old Jarn. His cough is like a bell, sharp, rhythmic, the kind that reminds you you're not the only one still awake. Your eyes blur, not from tears, but from the absence of light. The dark here is thick. It presses on your chest, your thoughts, your memory. but it's familiar. You can trace it like a friend's face. You hum a lullaby under your breath. No tune, just sound. A way to prove you're still real. Still here. The rat settles in the corner. You close your eyes. You smell it before you see it. Roasted meat, rosemary, something rich and sizzling. The scent floats down the stairwell like a ghost that refuses to haunt you properly. It doesn't belong here. Not on your floor. Not near your hands that still smell of ash and cold water. Someone in the upper halls is eating. Really eating. Not chewing stale bread or sipping weak ale. Not licking their fingers clean of cabbage broth. They are feasting. You follow the smell. Not with your feet, but with your mind. You imagine the table. Polished oak. Thick linen. Brass plates. You see the glistening of fat. The steam curling off a perfectly browned roast. And then you see the hands. Rings on every finger. Clean fingernails. Soft palms that have never carried a bucket in the snow. The kitchen staff says the meat came from the northern woods. A deer, maybe. Caught in a trap set by a lord's son who hunts not for hunger, but for honor. The kind of boy who will boast about it tomorrow while scratching at a barely visible scar on his hand. The kitchen boy who told you this whispered, they didn't even eat the liver. Just threw it away. You stare at your bowl. It's thin stew again. Turnip, maybe. Or beet. The color changes, but the taste never does. You dip your bread in it and watch as it dissolves. The crust collapses like old snow under boots. You chew, you swallow, you do not complain. This meal will not be remembered. Not by you. Not by history. Across the room, another servant lifts her bowl. She winces as the edge burns her fingers. She doesn't let go. She hasn't felt real heat in days. The pain is almost welcome. Someone near the hearth says a prayer. You know the words. You don't say them anymore, but you mouth along. Not for faith, for rhythm. Then you hear laughter from above. Not your kind. Not the chuckle that escapes when someone slips on the icy floor, and both of you agree it's better to laugh than cry. This is rich laughter. It echoes down the hall like spilled wine, unapologetic, full-bellied. You wonder what they're laughing at. A joke? A toast? A song? Or maybe just the joy of having enough. The stew goes cold quickly. You sip the last of it and scrape the sides with your bread. Someone offers you the heel of their loaf. You nod. It's not kindness. It's custom. You do the same. The kitchen boy appears again, holding a tray of scraps. Bones, gristle, bread crusts soaked in grease. He sets it on the floor near the fire, and those who move quickly reach for it. You don't. Not this time. You listen instead. To the fire. To the soft chewing. To the unspoken hierarchy reinforced with every meal. A boy to your left hides a bit of meat under his sleeve. He'll take it to his mother, who hasn't left her cot in 2 days. No one stops him. No one even looks. Hunger makes us silent, not selfish. Outside, the wind howls again, but it cannot drown the sound of feasting above. The walls carry it. The stones remember. And as your stomach settles into the quiet ache it knows too well, you realize something. This isn't about food. It never was. It's about distance. About how warmth, meat, and laughter live just 1 floor away, and still feel like another world entirely. You shift your weight on the bench, pull your coat tighter. You close your eyes for a second, just to imagine the roast. And then you get up, carry your bowl to the corner, and place it in the basin. The meal is done. But the hunger? It stays. The rules aren't written down. Not in your part of the castle. They're passed from whisper to whisper, glance to glance. They live in the hunch of shoulders, in the speed of footsteps when certain boots echo down the corridor. No one tells you when you start that the stairway on the west side is forbidden after dusk, or that the third kitchen ladle is for the Lord's soup only. You learn by mistake, and some mistakes don't let you try again. You learned quickly, like how to step aside when a noble passes, eyes down, how to keep silent when two guards argue, how to pretend you're invisible, even when someone is staring right at you. There are rules for firewood. Who gathers it? Who touches it? Who's allowed to complain when it's damp? Hint: no one. There are rules for mealtime. Where you sit, how quickly you eat, how loudly you chew, and if the steward is present, no slouching, no second servings, no stories. There's a rule for smiling, too. You can, but only if it's small, only if it fades quickly. Happiness is suspicious unless it's sanctioned. The higher floors have their own rules. Velvet rules. Rules with perfume and parchment and little wax seals. But yours are harder, because they change. They bend with mood, with weather, with hunger. And then there are the silent rules, the ones that matter most. Don't wake the wrong person. Don't clean too loudly near the chapel. Don't open the left window in the east tower unless you want to explain why the cat got out. Don't ask what happened to the boy who used to sleep in your cot. You obey, not because you're afraid of punishment, but because punishment means attention. And attention is worse. You fold your blanket just the way it was folded yesterday. You scrub the same corner of the same stone until it shines. Not because it's dirty, but because someone might look. And if someone looks, you want to disappear. The stone corridor is colder at night, colder and quieter, but not silent. The castle sleeps in layers, some in dreams, some in dread. And sometimes the quiet cracks. A boot hits stone, then another. Not a run, not a march. A rhythm, measured, practiced, and final. 2 guards, maybe 3, and 1 set of lighter steps dragged behind. You know what this is. Someone has broken a rule, the kind you don't come back from. No one tells you what rule it was. No one needs to. The cold will do the explainin'. And the dark. You've seen the room they use. Once, you were made to scrub the floor the day after. It wasn't bloody, just disturbed, as if even the dust didn't want to settle. Tonight, the boy doesn't scream. He must know that would make it worse. Or maybe his voice has already been taken by fear. The guards say nothing. Their breath fogs the air in short, practiced bursts. Their eyes do not meet yours. Someone in the hallway shifts, just to show they're awake. A ritual, a message. I'm not sleeping. I'm not complicit. I see nothing. You roll over on your straw mat. You stare at the ceiling. You count cracks. This isn't rare. It's not common either. It's seasonal, like the snow. When food runs low, rules grow sharper. When warmth fades, tempers sharpen. Justice here is not about fairness. It's about reminding the rest of you to fall in line. By morning, the boy is gone. Some say he's been reassigned. Some say he was let go. No one says where he went. But his corner is empty, his blanket gone, his name avoided. The cook whistles louder than usual. The steward claps his hands before giving orders. Both pretend not to notice the absence. You say nothing, not because you're afraid, because you understand. Order is a fragile thing. Like warmth, it must be tended, protected, enforced. And sometimes, it's built on silence. Later, you find a piece of bread under your cot. Crusty, a day old, maybe more. You chew it slowly. You let it last. Not because you're hungry, but because silence tastes better when it has texture. The fire in the hall crackles weakly, a reminder that the cold isn't the only thing that bites. And outside the window, snow begins to fall again, soft, white, and utterly indifferent. The children do not have toys. Not really. Not the kind made of paint or polish or carved from loving hands. Their games are born of necessity, crafted from the edges of survival. A burnt stick becomes a sword. A lump of frozen dough is a treasure. A pile of ash from the hearth transforms into the stage for entire worlds. You watch them in the corner of the servants' hall, knees dirty, hands quick, laughter stifled. Their voices stay low, too loud, and they'll be scolded, or worse, noticed. They do not scream in joy. They grin, with teeth that still believe and pretend. One girl draws circles in the soot, marking rooms in a castle grander than this one. Another builds a fort of rags and kindling, defending it with pride from an invisible army. A younger boy crawls underneath a bench, declaring it a secret tunnel. His fingers are blue at the tips, but he does not notice. The game is too good. No one tells them they're poor. Not directly, but the walls whisper it. The frost on their blankets confirms it. The silence during meals reinforces it. And yet, here they are, spinning joy from what adults barely tolerate. Cold, ash, and the dark. A woman steps in with a bucket. The game stops. The children scatter like mice. The fort collapses. The soot is smeared. And yet, one girl stays. She presses her hand into the ash, leaving a small, perfect print. You remember doing the same. Once. Long ago. She turns to you, not smiling, not scared, just waiting. You nod. Not much. Just enough. She smiles now. Real. Brief. And then she's gone, vanishing behind the door like she was never there. The ash remains. Later that evening, you sweep the floor. You find a pebble, a feather, a bit of cloth, each left behind, perhaps on purpose. Tiny treasures of a world no adult sees. You pocket the feather. You're not sure why, but somehow it feels warm. The water in the wooden basin is colder than the stones beneath your feet. You dip your hands in anyway. They ache immediately, red and stiff. But there is laundry to be done, and nobody else is going to scrub the stains from the linens soaked in cough, in fever, in fear. The steam that rises is not real, just breath in the morning light. Behind you, someone coughs. A woman, older, bent from years of kneeling. She's wrapping a bundle of tattered clothes in her arms, heading toward the line, the fire, the small mercy of warmth. Her hands shake as she walks, but her eyes stay steady. She doesn't look at you. She doesn't have to. You know her burden. A baby cries 2 doors down. Its voice cracks through the stillness like a log splitting in the fire. No one moves right away. No one can afford to. Eventually, someone will. They always do. You wring out a sheet. Your sleeves are wet up to your elbows. The fabric slaps against the basin with a sound like thunder muffled in wool. You imagine it as a drum, a signal, a ritual. Maybe if you beat it hard enough, the sickness will loosen and run out with the water. The woman returns. She doesn't speak, just drops a bundle at your side, blood-stained. You don't ask. You don't want to know who. Not today. You scrub. Hours pass, or maybe minutes. Your fingers lose count. You start to feel nothing. That helps. At one point, you pause, just briefly. A breeze flutters through the window, and for a moment it smells like spring. Or maybe just soap. You close your eyes. When you open them, the basin is darker. The blood has turned the water a muddy red. You dump it. Start again. By mid-afternoon, your back is screaming. But you keep going. You tell yourself it's almost done. Just this pile. Then rest. But the pile never ends. It only shifts, multiplies, changes shape. Later, you carry the clean linens through the corridor. The hall is quiet. A rare silence. You pass a man sleeping in a chair, his mouth open. You think of covering him with a sheet, just to be kind. But you don't. Your arms are full. Your head is heavy. You walk slower than you mean to. When you reach the sick room, the door creaks. You hear a voice whisper a name. Not yours, not anyone's you know. You place the sheets at the foot of the bed. The person in it turns slightly. A groan, a breath, nothing more. You look around. No one to thank you. No one to smile. No one to see you. But still, you did it. You carried the weight. You cleaned the mess. You gave something warm to someone colder than yourself. That matters. Even if no one says it. Even if no one sees it. You do. And tomorrow, you'll do it again. The fire in the corner burns low. It's more smoke than flame, but no one complains. Around it, the oldest in the castle sit hunched, layered in blankets and shawls, like the last embers of some forgotten summer. You recognize them, not their names, perhaps, but their shapes, the way they sit, the way they look without seeing, listen without moving. One rocks gently. Another mutters to herself in a language no one else speaks anymore. There are 6 of them tonight. Sometimes more. Sometimes fewer. They are not useless. Not exactly. They still mend torn sleeves, slice roots, tell you when the stew needs more salt. They are quiet advisors, memory keepers, shadows of those who once moved faster. One of them, he with the one cloudy eye, tells stories to no one in particular. About winters deeper than this, about wolves at the gate, about snow piled to the windowsill. You don't interrupt. You let him speak. His words are slow, falling into the room like flakes. You don't know if the stories are true. Maybe they never were. That's not the point. Another coughs, deep and rattling. The group doesn't flinch. You offer her a cup of something warm. She takes it, holds it, does not drink. Time bends strangely around the old. You might sit with them for 5 minutes or 50. It doesn't matter. They measure time differently, in size, in nods, in what their bones allow. They doze mid-sentence. They wake with a joke. They forget and then remember with startling clarity the name of a girl who died before you were born. You ask one to tell you something about when she was young. She says, everything was louder. Then she goes quiet. Someone begins humming. It could be a lullaby, or a prayer, or just the tune the wind made when it curled through the cracks in her childhood home. You close your eyes and listen. The fire doesn't crackle. It just breathes. They call him Brother Thomas, though he isn't really a brother, not in the way that priests or monks are. He wears no robes. He takes no vows. But people come to him anyway, mostly in the evenings, when the wind rattles the shutters and the coughs start to echo like footsteps. He listens. That's all. And somehow, that's enough. You first met him last year, when your mother fell sick. He didn't heal her, didn't pretend he could. But he sat beside her bed, nodded as she whispered, and held her hand until the trembling stopped. Tonight, you pass his small corner room. The doors slightly open. Inside, the candles burn low, one flickering, one out completely. A young boy sits across from him, no older than 8, knees pulled to his chest. He's not crying, but you can tell he was. Brother Thomas says nothing, just sits still, eyes kind, hands folded in his lap. You remember being that boy. Maybe everyone does. He doesn't keep records. No scrolls, no confessions, only memory. And a few herbs on a shelf. Lavender, thyme, dried rose petals in a jar too cloudy to see through. Some say he talks to the dead. Others say he hears God. You don't know. You only know this. No one who walks into his room walks out colder. You watch from the doorway for a moment longer, then move on. The castle quiets as night deepens. Somewhere, a scream, brief, choked off. Somewhere else, a song. You head toward the infirmary. A woman sits near the door, rocking herself slightly. She looks up when you pass, but says nothing. Inside, it smells of herbs and sweat, of hope and final breaths. Brother Thomas is there too, again, always. He moves gently. You notice how people breathe easier around him, like their lungs remember they're not alone. Later, you sit near the back wall. A girl no older than you lies curled on a cot, her face too still. You can't help her, but you can stay. So you do. Brother Thomas meets your eyes from across the room. No words, just a small nod. That, too, is enough. The hearth is tired. You can feel it in the way the flames lean low, barely licking the edges of the blackened logs. Most of the coals have crumbled into gray. Smoke lingers longer than it should, curling into the beams, settling in clothes. Dinner is not a meal. It's a negotiation. 3 bowls sit on the edge of the long table. Wooden, cracked, the bottoms worn smooth by spoons and time. 1 bowl holds porridge thinned beyond recognition. 1 holds bits of onion, salted too long. The 3rd is empty, except for a crust. You're not first in line, but you're not last. When your turn comes, the cook ladles without looking. 2 spoonfuls of gruel, 1/2 of a withered onion, and a nod. You whisper a thank you that goes unanswered. You sit near the hearth. It's not warmer there, but it feels like it should be. Others gather around you, bowls in laps, backs against the stone. No one talks. Talking means air in your throat, and that means less warmth, less food. You take your first bite. It's lukewarm, barely salted. Your teeth don't sink into anything, just paste. Still, it settles something deep in your belly. Not satisfaction, but space. A child nearby offers you a piece of his crust. You shake your head. He insists. So you take it. You break it in half. Give it back. He smiles. The flames shift. A log falls. Someone begins to hum. The tune is familiar. An old winter song about a fox and a frozen river. No one joins in, but no one stops it. You close your eyes for a moment. It smells like ash and old onions. You open them again. Night is full now. Outside, wind claws the shutters. Inside, bowls are scraped, stacked. Someone coughs into a sleeve. You gather what's left in your bowl and drink it like tea. It's not hot, but it's something. You sleep close. There is no choice. The sleeping space is not yours alone. It is shared, first with 2 others, then 4, now maybe 6. Bodies stacked and staggered like logs in a fire, each one giving off what little warmth it can spare. The floor is dirt, packed hard and cracked with cold. Someone spread straw across it weeks ago, but it's thinned, crushed beneath the weight of nights. It doesn't soften much. It just keeps you from touching the earth directly. You have 1 blanket. It's wool, but old. It smells of wood smoke, sweat, and time. Someone patched it once with linen, now torn again. You keep your corner tight under your chin, careful not to tug too hard. The girl beside you murmurs in her sleep. The boy on the other side twitches and pulls the blanket with him. You grunt and tug it back. No one fully wakes. This dance has happened every night for months. Your knees touch someone else's. Your shoulders press against a back. Your feet find warmth in another's calves. It is strange how close can feel so far. You're never alone, but loneliness slips in anyway. The hearth has gone out. You can smell the dying coals. Ash filters into your breath. Cold creeps in where the stones meet the wind. You shift, carefully, slowly, not to wake, just to change the angle of pain in your hip. Someone whispers something you don't catch. A cough, a sigh, the shuffle of cloth. You pull your hands inside your sleeves. You press your palms to your stomach. You try to sleep. You dream of nothing. And when you wake a few hours later, your corner of the blanket is gone again. So you pull it back, quietly, gently. The girl beside you murmurs once more. This time, your hand finds hers. Neither of you pulls away. You sleep close. There is no choice. The sleeping space is not yours alone. It is shared, first with 2 others, then 4, now maybe 6. Bodies stacked and staggered like logs in a fire, each one giving off what little warmth it can spare. The floor is dirt, packed hard and cracked with cold. Someone spread straw across it weeks ago, but it's thinned, crushed beneath the weight of nights. It doesn't soften much. It just keeps you from touching the earth directly. You have one blanket. It's wool, but old. It smells of wood smoke, sweat, and time. Someone patched it once with linen, now torn again. You keep your corner tight under your chin, careful not to tug too hard. The girl beside you murmurs in her sleep. The boy on the other side twitches and pulls the blanket with him. You grunt and tug it back. No one fully wakes. This dance has happened every night for months. Your knees touch someone else's. Your shoulders press against a back. Your feet find warmth in another's calves. It is strange how close can feel so far. You're never alone, but loneliness slips in anyway. The hearth has gone out. You can smell the dying coals. Ash filters into your breath. Cold creeps in where the stones meet the wind. You shift, carefully, slowly, not to wake, just to change the angle of pain in your hip. Someone whispers something you don't catch. A cough, a sigh, the shuffle of cloth. You pull your hands inside your sleeves. You press your palms to your stomach. You try to sleep. You dream of nothing. And when you wake a few hours later, your corner of the blanket is gone again. So you pull it back, quietly, gently. The girl beside you murmurs once more. This time, your hand finds hers. Neither of you pulls away. Dreams are never warm. Not here. When they come, they drift in like mist under the door. You don't remember falling asleep, only waking up confused, unsure whether what just passed through your mind was a memory or a story told long ago. You're not in the castle, not in your blanket cocoon. You're outside, somewhere far, somewhere green. There's sunlight in this dream. Not the thin gray of morning through slats, but full light, golden and heavy. It glows on your arms. Your skin feels alive, not just present. You're barefoot, but the ground is soft. Grass. Real grass. It bends but doesn't break. You dig your toes into it, press down. You don't want to move. A figure calls your name. You don't recognize the voice, but it feels kind. Familiar, even. You turn, but before your eyes can find the face, there's smoke. Not from firewood. Thick, black smoke. Too fast, too high. You know this smell. Grease. Panic. Stone heated too hot. And then, you're back. Not all the way. That place still hovers in your bones. Your fingers twitch as if they could hold on to that warmth. The room hasn't changed. Neither has the cold. Someone beside you coughs. Someone groans. Feet shift. You sit up, slowly. Rub your arms. And for just a second, you think of that voice, that sunlight. You try to remember what it said, but all that's left is a feeling, a kind one. You lie down again, this time on your back. The ceiling is dark, but your eyes trace the beams above anyway. You know every splinter. You reach for the blanket corner. It's there, for now. And somewhere in the hush, someone else whispers the first few notes of that fox and river song again. You let your eyes close. If the dream returns, you hope it brings sunlight. The wind outside howls like an old wolf pacing the castle walls. It slips through cracks you can't see, coiling around your ankles, brushing the base of your spine. No one speaks. No one dares. In this moment, everything is still. Still as breath held under ice. You shift beneath the blanket, the same threadbare one you've fought for each night. The same one you've shared, and lost, and reclaimed, like a ritual with no priest, only silence. Your fingers brush against your own chest. Cold, even there. And you think, could anyone live like this? Really live? If it were you, if you, watching this now, lived here, right here, in this slab of stone and smoke, how long would you last? Would your hands blister at the first touch of firewood? Would your skin crack from the dry cold, or from washing too few times in too much ash? Would you know how to light a fire without flint? Could you chew through bread gone hard as bone? Your mind wanders to a world with central heat, warm water, soft slippers, to supermarkets, to phones that tell you the weather instead of your joints. And yet, this world, the stone one, the breath and hay one, it moves at a different rhythm. It does not ask how productive you are. It asks only if you endure. Here, survival is the job. Waking up is the victory. Sharing food, a triumph. Laughing, when it happens, a kind of miracle. Could you slow down that much? Could you shrink into the simplicity of it? You look at your fingers again, red and raw. You flex them. You lift one to your mouth, nibbling a dry edge of nail. You taste the salt of yourself. What would your modern self say, seeing this now? Would you pity the person you've become here? Or would you envy something in them? The quiet, maybe. The way time softens when there are no alarms, no meetings, no traffic, no rush. Just the hum of your own heartbeat and the creak of wooden beams above you. If it were you, truly you, would you break? Or bend? The girl beside you breathes out slowly, warm air against your arm. In this castle, in this cold, you survive together or not at all. Maybe that's the only rule that mattered. Maybe that's the only rule that ever did. You close your eyes. You imagine being watched from a future far ahead, where warmth is a switch and winter is a mood. You wonder what they'd say about this moment, about this version of you. Then the blanket tugs again. You let it go this time. And just before sleep pulls you back down, you whisper. Not quite a prayer, not quite a question. If it were you, would you still be here by morning? Would you? You blink awake. Not fully, not sharply. Just enough to notice the air doesn't hurt as much. Your breath still fogs, but softer. The cold remains, but less brutal. Somewhere in the stone bones of this place, something has shifted. A day has passed. Another night survived. You sit up. Your back protests, your neck stiff. But you sit. That too is a small defiance. Around you, others stir. They groan, stretch, pull the blanket tighter around their shoulders. No one speaks yet. Not out of fear, just because silence feels like part of the morning. a reverence, a kind of communal prayer. You stand. Your feet are bare. The stones are still cold, but not biting, not cruel. You tiptoe across the floor, careful not to wake the last sleepers. One of them opens their eyes and smiles, just a twitch, then returns to their dream. The coals from last night still smolder. You feed them. Small sticks, dry moss. A breath, and then another. It catches. A flame, real and living. You smile. A real one. It spreads through your chest like honey. You crouch by the fire and watch it grow. The others begin to join you, one by one. No rush, just gravity, just warmth calling. Someone passes you bread, stale as always, but you break it in half. Offer a piece back. It's accepted with a nod. Outside, you hear a bird. Just one. But it's enough to pull your eyes toward the window. Still cracked, still drafty. But now, there's light. Not sunlight. Not yet. But the idea of it. You stand again, stretch your arms, and glance back at the others, still half asleep, still curled into one another like roots under snow. Something has changed. The cold is still here. The walls are still stone. The stew is still thin. But something else, inside you, maybe, has shifted. You have survived. And that, somehow, feels different today. You don't remember falling asleep, but you remember the feeling just before, when your body began to sink, not into softness, but into stillness. The fire's last glow is now just a red breath beneath the ash. It gives no heat, only comfort in its color. You lie on your side, facing the wall. The stone is rough and cold against your cheek, but it's familiar. Familiar makes it easier. The others have settled too. A leg draped over yours. Fingers curled near your ribs. No one speaks. There's no need. You're together. That's enough. Your blanket no longer fights you. It rests, loosely spread, shared without struggle. Maybe the cold has taught you how to give, or maybe you're just too tired to grip. Your thoughts drift, not to tomorrow, not to spring, but to right now, to the sound of breath beside you, to the weight of a body near yours, to the quiet miracle of another day endured. You remember the faces of those who didn't make it last winter, the girl with the cough, the boy who slipped in the snow and never rose. You carry them in your silence, in the way you press your palm to your chest and feel your own warmth, faint but faithful. A distant sound, wind brushing through beams, or a dream fading. You're not sure. Your limbs are heavy. Your thoughts slow. The ceiling above you disappears into shadow. But you know it's there. Just like the morning. Just like the world beyond these walls. You don't need to see it now. Someone shifts, and the blanket tugs at your feet. This time, you don't pull back. You let it go. You've had enough. Enough for now. You exhale, and in that exhale is everything. The weight of the day, the echo of voices, the ache of cold that never quite left, but also peace. You survived. You were here. You mattered. And as your eyes begin to close, slowly, willingly, you hear something. A whisper. Or maybe your own voice. Software kind. Good night.